And you hold me close till I feel your love shine. Kiss me deeply, hold me when I'm lonely, complete me, release me, promise you'll never leave me. 'Cause I can't fall again. 'Cause I can't fall down to the end. It's so easy to give my body up, but I'm not sorry, you're gonna have to work for it. Yeah, it's so easy to like someone, but I really need to feel that deep connection. Yeah, 'cause I don't have no time to be here second guessing. I don't have the patience to feel like we just messing. Tired of taking losses just to learn a lesson. Give me what I deserve, not just what I'm requesting. Spend some time to myself just to learn what I'm about. Tell me simple stories, give attention when we out. If you ain't got the time, you shouldn't be who's on my mind. And you hold me close till I feel your love shine. Kiss me deeply, hold me when I'm lonely, complete me, release me, promise you'll never leave me. 'Cause I can't fall again. 'Cause I can't fall down to the end.
All the times that you say that you wanna hurt back, she don't let ass go, you want all of that. Yeah. All the things that you need, there was only one place. You don't understand how love works, mom. Day. All the times that you said that you wanna hurt back, yeah. She don't let ass go, you want all of that. Yeah. All the things that you need, there was only one place. Yeah. Said I feel safe when I'm with you. You done gave your whole heart, still I feel foolish, 'cause I can't change some shit I do. Wouldn't know how to go about it if I lost you. Been let myself get in my way, 'cause if it was my heart, I make that change. Came into my home, there's no more games. Know you would rather go than stay the same. Yeah. What you want? We ain't talking about that tonight. Yeah. Hand them off, make love till you satisfied. Yeah. Dreams of war, tell me which please your appetite. Yeah. We connect through the skies like satellites. I don't wanna be the reason why you sad at night. We can stop right now, no you scared of heights. Everything that you want, always in sight. We ain't gotta slow down, we just living life. Said I feel safe when I'm with you. You done gave your whole heart, still I feel foolish, 'cause I can't change some shit I do. Wouldn't know how to go about it if I lost you. Been let myself get in my way, 'cause if it was my heart, I make that change. Came into my home, there's no more games. Know you would rather go than stay the same. Know you would rather go. Been let myself get up in my way. get up in my way. Said I feel safe, and I'm with you. You done gave your whole heart, still I feel foolish, cause I can't change some shit I do. Wouldn't know how to go about it if I lost you. Didn't let myself get in my way, cause if it was my heart, I make that change. Came into my own, there's no more games. No, you would rather go, don't stay the same. Yeah. Fantasy, that's all you need. Girl, you know it's on my mind. I can't wait to act out or fantasize all day, all night, just you and I. Hey, baby, let me take you on a ride of the night. Won't you spend some time, just relax. Short is love, just relax. Won't you hurry? I'm waiting. Can't hardly breathe with such anticipation. If these walls could talk, they'll be too ashamed to speak. Cause they know what goes down when you're with me. Let me take you on a ride of the mind. Spend some time, yeah. Just you and me. We ain't got a plan B. Yeah. The choice is mine tonight. See, I just want tonight to be special. I know our lives get busy, but I just want to spend time like we used to do. Is that alright? Spend some time. Spend some time. I need your love. Sweet, it's gonna be, got to be a good night. Short is mine tonight. Red light is
90.7 WTCC FM. My name is D.Moss, sitting in with my man Rob Jones. What's good, bro?
What's good? What's
you got
good?
your arm right over the microphone.
What's good? What's good?
Man,
good evening, everybody. This weather's been crazy, though, huh?
Yeah, it has been crazy.
And now it's gonna get cold this week.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. I enjoy it by the day, man.
Hey, man, when you're born and raised in New England, it is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can't complain.
Can't complain at all.
We should know better by now.
Yep. So what you got, Ray? Man, I know you always got something that we're gonna talk about. So what you got for us?
Well, I wanted to talk about a word that is in the Black community we talk about a lot. It's disrespect.
Oh.
You know, like if you're stepping on my Air Jordans, you want to take my life, and you think it's he was disrespecting me. He was disrespectful. Yeah, I kind of want to put it towards a more political slant. But before I do that, I just want to preface it by saying that I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. When I vote, I usually vote independent. I'm not promoting either party. I'm just promoting thought, thinking and thought, because as a community, we have a habit of voting one way, and we need to focus on policy over party. That, just give it some thought. So one of the things when I talk about disrespect, I narrowed it down to symbolism, which is the illusion of trying, the illusion of giving something, the illusion of doing something, versus tangible. And I'm going to kind of quantify tangible with legislation that's been passed, right? So when you look at the definition, tangible is perceptible by touch, and some of the synonyms are touchable, palatable, tactile. I'm going to focus on material. So keep that in mind when it comes to tangible material. And then symbolism is represents ideas or qualities, and then it gives some examples, but it's more from an artistic standpoint. But it's something that looks good, but doesn't necessarily equate to something that you can hold in your hand, something that you can point to, touch to, refer back to. All right. So disrespect, symbolism, Maya Angelou on the back of the quarter. That's an example of symbolism. Juneteenth. I don't know about you, but before Juneteenth was a national holiday, my family was celebrating that.
Yeah, we didn't celebrate Juneteenth.
We didn't go to
And
school.
my pops was from the South. We celebrated a lot of things. Juneteenth wasn't one of them.
Yeah. And then I remember growing up in New Hampshire. New Hampshire was one of the last states to recognize Martin Luther King as a federal holiday. And I remember staying home from school all the time before that was even brought up. So also the harm reduction plan, which is basically giving crack pipes in the name of racial equity. If you folks haven't heard about any of the stuff I'm mentioning, please don't believe me. Don't believe me at all. Look it up and do your research yourself. Yes, in order for racial equity, we're going to give out free crack pipes. Okay. Mentioning Sojourner Truth on a $10 bill, and also Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. The George Floyd Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Okay. These were passed in the House, but died in the Senate. So if you're a congressman or a senator, you can introduce a bill. Well, I introduced this bill, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be law. Introducing the bill doesn't mean anything unless it comes to law. That's like me calling up, somebody say, "Hey, yeah, let's go out to eat," and you're like, "Yeah, I'm down."
Right.
And then I never show up.
Right.
But I don't even want to get on that because my boy Lindsay's probably watching. He's used to asking me, "Yeah, we're gonna go here, there," and I used to say, "Yeah, I'll be there," and never show up. And even when I was saying yes, I knew I wasn't going to show up.
Right.
That's symbolism. Now he doesn't invite me to anything anymore. The HR 40 Commission to study reparations. Now, I want to juxtapose that with the JUST Act that was passed back in 2018, passed by Congress, which deals with restitution for the survivors and their families of the Holocaust. Okay, that was the JUST Act that was introduced in 2017, I think, and it was passed into law 2018. Germany paid reparations. A lot of countries paid reparations, and we're still fighting. We're still fighting for reparations. Okay, hold on to that. Nominating a black woman to the Supreme Court justice. Everybody, Twitter, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court justice." If you don't know anything about Thurgood Marshall, look him up. Being that it's Black History Month, we tend to, in the dominant society schools, tend to focus on a few people. Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, who else? Frederick Douglass. There are a lot more movers and shakers in Black history than the dozen or so people that are highlighted in Black History Month. So look up Thurgood Marshall and look what he did, what he fought for, what he was able to accomplish for the Black community. So when his time passed, what we got was Clarence Thomas. What has he done for the black community? Nothing. Look up Clarence Thomas. Look him up and you tell me what he's done for the black community. So nominating a black woman to the Supreme Court justice, which would be good if that black woman was like Harriet Tubman, like, or Sojourner Truth, like. But if you're going to nominate somebody just because they have the same complexion as us, but espouses the virtues of the dominant society, that's not a win for us. The commemorative speech that Biden gave at the site of the Tulsa massacre, gave a great speech talking about we got to be better, we got to do better. No reparations, nothing offered for the two last remaining survivors of the Tulsa massacre. Just a speech, just words. So you're connecting the words with symbolism, not action. Okay? But we got August 11th, Hip Hop Celebration Day. We got Hip Hop Celebration Day. Now, here's another bill being put on the floor. It's called HR, and I'm not naming the politicians. That they're black, but I'm not naming them. HR 301, Lift Every Voice and Sing, as a national hymn. We got black kids getting shot down asleep. We got Dante Wrights, the judge, Chu, didn't go by the sentencing guidelines for that officer that just killed him and claimed that, I thought it was my taser. Decided to give, I think, 24-month sentence, and then with maybe 16 or 18 months served, something like that. Look that up to get the facts. Not the 15 years of the guidelines. Okay? And we're getting a national hymn? And then there's another bill called the African American History Act, which is going to teach black history the right way. Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a lot of pushback among states on the critical race theory?
Absolutely.
And I think Alabama was trying to lump in Black History Month as critical race theory, and they didn't want to acknowledge it. Well, critical race theory has been around since the 70s, and it was a master's degree class. So the African American History Act, how much money do you think's behind this?
Oh, quite a bit. I'm going to say a couple of million.
Okay, 10 million, right?
Yep.
Spread out over 5 years.
10 million spread out over 10
million spread out over 5 years. But we got a Harriet Tubman statue in Philadelphia. But did the families of the survivors of MOVE get any restitution?
Ooh.
I think that was in the 80s. I think I was in maybe middle school when the Philadelphia police dropped a bomb.
Yeah.
An incendiary bomb, which incendiary bomb means not just a bomb that's based on explosions, but a bomb that's designed to cause fire. Explode, fire, not just explode, destroy. Explode, fire, and destroy. Men, women, and children were killed in that bombing. But we got a statue of Harriet Tubman. And also, we can't forget Pelosi and the gang, right?
Well, I'm going to play the other side.
Okay, well, I got the other side, but go ahead.
Oh, no, I see nothing wrong with getting a statue.
I don't see nothing wrong with getting a statue either. I don't see nothing wrong with getting a statue. But listen, look at this. Right, let's talk about the tangibles. Asian American and Pacific Islanders got a hate crime bill.
Yep.
That's tangible. You do something against them, and it's called a hate crime, you're going to jail. Period. Black people, we've been in this country since forever, and before we were acknowledged about being in this country, no hate crime bill.
Right.
Okay? Native American Justice Reform Bill. I almost said the name, but I ain't going to say the name. HR 1619. Why is 1619 that date important?
1619, Jamestown.
Okay. HR 1619, the Catawba Indian Act, that was pushed by somebody who's not in that ethnicity or nationality. They get 17 million acres. 17 million acres from this act. And if you look up Catawba Indians, you look at their history, they were some of the most notorious slave catchers. They were so bad that black folk slaves would give themselves up to white slave catchers over those guys, and they operated on the North Carolina, South Carolina border. Okay, so 17 million acres. And someone might ask, well, who cares? There could be natural resources on those 17 million acres. You can sell off some of those acres and get money, tangible. You can develop those acres. You can farm those acres, tangible.
If there's fresh water, that's right.
Yep. And also, 17 million acres, you can create your own community.
Right.
Okay, so you have that. The Just Act I talked about, and I talked about the survivors of Tulsa who didn't get paid reparations. The LGBTQ organization people are getting reparations for, they were victims. If you were a victim of an anti-gay discrimination law, you're getting restitution. So what's an anti-gay legislation law? Let's say if you were married, same sex, and your spouse, if you're married, opposite sex, husband and wife, male and female, the husband dies, the wife gets the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
With the anti-gay discrimination laws, if it's a same sex and one of the spouse die, you weren't getting benefits. So now they're going to give you, if you were a victim of this law, they're going to give you thousands of dollars, maybe even into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, retroactive. And then the Native American, they got $31 billion for the Native Community Act. $31 billion. This was an executive order. $31 billion. Now, there's a group of people I'm going to mention who aren't even U.S. citizens that don't even vote. They're getting $7 billion. Can you guess who that is?
They don't vote.
They're not citizens and they don't vote. Can you guess who that is?
That could be anybody. Any group. There's a whole lot. Who is it? I'm just curious.
The Afghan refugees. It's $7 billion for a resettlement reparations. $7 billion. And then there was talk about Biden giving upwards of $400,000 for each family that had a kid taken away from them on the border. Hundreds of thousands on that. The Hispanics got an immigration bill through executive order. The LGBTQ got a bill to protect their rights. That's tangibles. We're getting statues, which I don't disagree with statues, but there's nothing that I mentioned. Holidays, crack pipes.
Are we on the back of a quarter or a $20 bill or something?
Back of a quarter. That's Maya Angelou. I can't believe I forgot that one. That was the first one I wrote. Back on the quarter. There's nothing in here on the symbolism side for Black Americans that you can equate to tangibles. Nothing. So when people sit back there and say, "Oh,"
but the irony is, everybody tells you that you have to vote, and then you wonder why a lot of times people go, "Well, I'm not voting." And they say, "Well, if you don't vote, you get nothing." But we showed up in droves on this last presidential election. Everybody voted, and you're telling us that although we, the Black community completely changed the tide.
We always change the tide.
And you're telling me that we got the back of a quarter, we got a statue, we got quite a few symbolic contributions to change and struggle and justice.
And that's just recent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's just recent stuff. I didn't go back. Because, going back, people are like, "Oh, that happened back then." This is all recent stuff. So when people say, "Oh, we not getting this because of the filibuster or Joe Manchin or the Republicans or Mitch McConnell," the Democrats, they own the House, the Senate, and the presidency. So when you say you can't get things through, And you got all these cats getting executive orders, getting legislation, getting money into the billions. What does that tell you? That tells you got to stop falling for the okie doke. You got to stop falling for the okie doke. And right now, they're trying to push people who aren't really legally citizens to give them the right to vote because they know how powerful the black vote is. And the worst part of the whole scenario is now you got people that look like you, that look like me, that look like my sister, my cousins, out there pushing that narrative. And I can't, every time I see that, I go back to the classic Hollywood Shuffle. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where Robert Townsend towards the end of it was, you got to buck your eyes some more. You got to, move around and squirrel around some more. And his daughter was watching, and I think it was his grandma. And they just had a look of shame on their face. And he said, I can't do this. But then someone else stood up and said, I'll do it.
The table.
Someone else stood up and said, I'll do it. So you've got people that look like us pushing a message that's disingenuous and deleterious to our community because it's easier when we see somebody that looks like us. We're thinking, okay, they got that best interest, our best interest in heart. And that's not true. You remember the Tuskegee experiment, the nurse. She was one of us.
Remember Margaret Sanger when they pushed their Planned Parenthood concept?
Eugenics.
They said, let's talk to the preachers, let's talk to the barbers, and give them the message, and let them push our message. If we do it, it'd be opposed. But give them the message, give them an incentive, and let them push it out into the communities. And they did that.
And they did it well. And they got some money. And one of the things to pivot back to like the micro. Let's talk about Springfield for a second. When you talk about money, there's monies, there's funds coming in, whether it's federal and state, and you've got people that look like us that are clamoring to get money, and they're willing to sell our community out for pennies on the dollar. To be that spokesperson, to be that lapdog, and you're getting pennies on the dollar, and people from other ethnicities and nationalities don't even have to show up to the table, and they're getting a lion's share of the funds while you sold yourself out for pennies. And I've got several people going through my head right now when I'm saying that, and it's crazy. We need to wake up. I put some demographics on Springfield, 2019. This city is about 154,000 people, right? Median age, 33 years old. Median income, I'm going to round it up to 40,000. All right, so when you look at the largest ethnic groups, you got white Hispanic, which I thought, that line was just Hispanic, but white Hispanic, 32%. White non-Hispanic, 31%. Black non-Hispanic, 18%. 18% of the population of this city is black. How many people at 154,000? How many people voted? Do you know? Just roughly voted during the last election, the mayoral election.
Maybe give or take about 12, maybe 11, 12,000.
Okay,
maybe 13,000 people.
11. Okay, let's say 13,000 people. If all the black people in this city, registered voters, and the ones who aren't registered, it's easy to get registered. And if you need help, contact D.Moss or myself, and we'll help you get registered. If all the black voters in the city of Springfield came out to vote, we would have a different administration right now. We would have a different administration since day one. And when you look throughout cities in America, regardless of gerrymandering and redistricting, if the black community came out in droves the way we came out for to vote for President Obama during I think it's the 2012 election, the more black voters came out than ever in the history of voting, and it even eclipsed white voters. So bringing it back to Springfield,
I'm wrong. It wasn't that high. Let's see. For the primary, 7,253 people came out. And no, I wasn't out there. It was 15,522 people who voted. Dominic Sarno got 11,880 votes. Yolanda Cancel got 3,593 votes, and then there was 49 writers.
So that's the data. And don't believe Darryl, don't believe me. Everything I'm saying, look it up. Actually, you really need to look everything up that you hear from mainstream corporate media, because the narrative has been corrupted and co-opted since a long time ago, but it's even really worse now. So look everything up. Fact check us, double check it. But it still doesn't nullify the fact that if black registered voters in spring, just the black registered voters, not even the non-registered one, the black registered voters came out, it would be a different administration. And
But that's just it. The black voters do come out. Do they come out? Is it an overwhelming number? No. But we have one of the strongest voting blocks in the city of Springfield.
yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't talk about. We spend, and I'm not saying you're doing
No, go ahead, man.
we tend to spend more time saying that, telling each other that we don't vote without even looking at the data. We are one of the strongest voting blocks. But we are one of the least likely to benefit from those voting blocks. So when you talk about all those, what do you call those? Tangibles or non-tangibles that we received since Biden got in. I think a lot of it boils down to, do we even understand how to navigate the political process? We're vaguely familiar with the landscape. We think that if we have one state legislator, one black state legislator. I know. I remember way back talking to State Rep Carlos Gonzalez about the Association of Black Business and Professionals. And he told, well, you need to go talk to Bud Williams. Well, why am I talking to Bud Williams when we have people on our board who live in your district? So the thing is, there's Angela Pupolo, there's Eric Lesser, there's, in terms of our state senators, we have Eric Lesser, Adam Gomez. In terms of our state reps, we have Brian Nash, we have Angela Pupolo, we have Orlando Ramos, we have Carlos Gonzalez, we have Bud Williams, and I'm missing out on somebody. But the thing is, we always look to that one black legislator to go up there and win over. I'm not even sure how many state legislators we have up there. I forgot the number. To win over everybody to get what we need. When the reality is, typical when they introduce legislation, it gets turned down up there because we don't have enough representation. So we're not getting it. So, and we don't understand how to navigate the landscape. When it comes down to, look at Springfield, how often do we take these trips to Boston? How often do we host legislative luncheons, legislative breakfasts, and telling the legislators, all of them, because we vote in there's 17 neighborhoods in the city of Springfield, and we have black voters in each and every one of them. Yeah. How often do we demand what we need? If you live outside of the 11th Hampton district, and that's Bud Williams' district, we're still looking at Bud to provide us with resources. I don't live in his district, so I have no right to try and hold him accountable. He's not my state legislator. I got some guy I forgot the kid's name, the kid out of Ludlow, who has Ward 8. So it's kind of like, I should be going to him. We have this thing, whereas when we receive absolutely nothing, we go after the few state legislators that we have. We'll go after the blackface. Everybody else to get a pass.
Yeah, we can't give.
And it's just like, in order to not give people a pass and hold folks accountable, we really have to understand how to navigate the process. What are the do's? What are the don'ts? Are there any statewide committees that we should be going after? Are there any commissions we should be going after? How do we access the governor to make sure that when he comes to Springfield, he's not just being ferried around by Dominic and his people, and coming to our neighborhoods and adequately addressing issues and challenges and concerns that we've had. The other piece is, we have to get rid of all these self-proclaimed spokespersons for the black community. Okay. We'll get one minister or one activist or one, political insider, and everything has to be streamlined through them. They say yay or nay to everything. And it's like, we vote, and then I vote, and then you get all the credit for me voting, and you get all the tangibles. And I'm sitting back, the streets of my neighborhood are still a mess. Garbage still ain't getting picked up. We still don't have the resources that we need to keep a vibrant black business community floating. But we'll have one person and everything is streamlined through him. So we have to find a way to get rid of, have a whole complete paradigm shift. But we can't do that until we educate our folks on how to effectively navigate this system. So we're talking about tangibles and non-tangibles. We can complain all day, but we have Congressman Richard Neal, who is chair of the House Ways and Means, which is the most powerful, almost one. It's like the third most powerful position down in D.C. And it's kind of like, how are we complaining about this stuff? But when was the last time somebody said, "Yo, let's get 200 people in a room and let's bring him in"? When he walks through the neighborhood, everybody's like trying to get pictures with him, shaking his hand. Hey, Congressman, how you doing? The same thing they do when Dominic comes through the neighborhood. They give us nothing, but we're completely happy with photo opportunities, with a handshake. And God, if he remembers your name,
you know what's funny when you say everything. When you said that, there was an article in the Metro Record, with the mayor in there and some people standing around him, right in the midst of some real foul stuff that happened. And some of the black folks that are around him, I'm looking at them like, really?
Yeah.
So I'm like, come on. But you're right. I mean, there's enough body of work that, like, if I'm Shaq on the free throw line, and you're the coach, and it's a close game, and you're not going to lose any points, you're going to sub me out and put someone in that's a better free throw shooter. This mug is shooting bricks, and we're still voting for him. We can't have people just keep shooting bricks on our community and keep voting for them because they showed you who they are.
Right.
They showed you who they are. It's time for a change. But you're right, and you got to put pressure on these folks, and you got to hold them accountable. You know what they're doing, and you know what they're not doing. And just a change in one position changes the dynamic of the city, the complexity of the city, the education, the policing, the economic development aspect, just by moving one piece on the chessboard.
But and it still goes back to education and mobilization and preparation. We have to make sure that we have somebody that we can put in office who sees the bigger picture and not their own personal finances or their small cliques. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's mobilization, it's education, mobilization, preparation. It's all that stuff. Because we can get a black face. I mean, Justin Hurst is planning on running for mayor. Cool, he's a black dude. Cool, he's young, full of energy, presents well. But is he what we actually need for our community? How do we know if he's adequately prepared? How do we know he's not going to go and be a Dominic in blackface? We hope for the best, but we still haven't put any mechanisms in place to make sure that, okay, we go support him 300%. How do we hold him accountable to ensure that he does due diligence?
Well, let me ask you this question. So,
before you ask that question, hold on to it. It's 8:41. We were supposed to be paying our bills at 9. It's 9:41. We should have paid our bills at 9:30. So I'm going to play these cards real quickly and pay the bill. This is 90.7 WTCC, broadcasting via remote from the campus of Springfield Technical Community College. Rob, hold on to that question because we need to hear it. Here it is, y'all.
Did you know that you may have the ability to help transform a child's life? If you have room in your home and room in your heart, we can help you make that happen. We are Hopewell, one of the leading providers of foster care services in Massachusetts and East Hartford, Connecticut. Join our West Springfield office located at 54 Myron Street, West Springfield, and create a new family of your own. Open the door to becoming a foster care. To learn more, call our office directly at 413-439-9000 or email our Western Region Program Director at tturner@hopewellinc.org. And if you're out of the Western Region, please email our agency-wide email address at info@hopewellinc.org.
This program has been underwritten by the Springfield Public Schools. Attention, Springfield Public School families. Did you know your household is entitled to receive a discount of up to $30 a month on your Comcast, Verizon, or Spectrum bill? That's right. Simply by having a student enrolled in the Springfield Public Schools, your family is completely eligible for this savings. Please visit www.springfieldpublicschools.com for further information and to learn how you can apply today for your discounted rate. WTCC would like to thank Springfield Public Schools for underwriting with us.
This program has been underwritten by BayPath University. What is your purpose and how can you make it a reality? Join BayPath University for a virtual event featuring alum Ruby Maddox on Wednesday, March 2nd from 5:30 to 7 p.m. This free public and virtual workshop hosted by the Women Empowered as Learners and Leaders program will help all participants clarify their vision, execute on their goals, develop a purpose-driven plan, recover from setbacks, and above all, reimagine their purpose. For more information, Dina Moore at dmoore@baypath.edu. dmoore@baypath.edu. WTCC would like to thank Baypath University for underwriting with us.
This program has been underwritten by Wing Madness, home of over 20 wing flavors, specializing in lemon pepper henny wings. Lunch specials, currently adding authentic Jamaican food to the menu. And now you can book Wing Madness for your next baby shower, wedding reception, repads, special celebrations, and private events. Catering is available. Visit wingmadnessspringfield.com or 413-278-2916. That's wingmadnessspringfield.com or 413-278-2916. Located at Springfield Plaza on Liberty Street in Springfield. Wing Madness makes good food and good memories. WTCC thanks Wing Madness for underwriting with us.
For a country that treats me cold, there's my skin, like it ain't the crown I hold. You bold, crude, and show enough rude, as if my blood don't feed your root. I am the fruit of strange trees, resistant to pocketed hands and knees, deaf to your pleas, with hands for your disease, ready to fight injustice till it has no goddamn teeth.
First thing that come to mind is I sit and write trying to fill this void. I come to y'all bearing pain cause I ain't feeling poised. A lot of my is down to grip up cause they unemployed. Not realizing happiness fades, you gotta pray for joy. But what do you do when you feel like prayer ain't working? Every day we trying to heal till we turn on the news, see another black curtain person. It's like I'm there in person. The way my brothers meet in death, you would swear they was flirting. So 412, they don't protect, these pigs are just serving God's people with bullets like it was part of their sermon. Well, it's no longer just concerning the people like yearning and deserving of real equality. White America claims to worship. It's kind of like Satan preaching the gospel while he lying churches. Never pull the root of the problem, only scratch the surface. Responding where all lives matter ain't following purpose. So y'all, as you say it on purpose. No, you see they treat us worthless or even foolish, trying to convince us that a black man hung himself. Like, master, you must think we stupid. My brothers and sisters been free from you since Emancipation Park.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of WTCC Radio or Springfield Technical Community College.
.7 WTCC FM. We are back. My name is D.Moss. Monday Night Live with D.Moss here on 90.7 WTCC FM. Oh, my main man, Mr. Rob Jones. And Rob got something to say. This is the insight portion of Monday Night Live. Rob, you had a question before we went to the break.
Yeah, a question in response to what you were talking about when you were saying, how do we identify those people who are right that are going to help push agenda in our community?
Okay.
So if you have somebody in there that's a cancer right now,
yep,
do you just let them stay in there and keep metastasizing, or do you cut them out? Because, I mean, do you go through that process of trying to find somebody and let the cancer spread? Or
here's the thing. If somebody's on the other side of the aisle from you and they're doing what they feel is in the best interest of the black community, you feel like you're doing what's in the best interest of the black community, neither one of you have actually taken the opportunity to see what the other is doing that may or may not be effective. It's hard to determine who's cancer and who's not. We watch everybody. I mean, we're watching people from outside the window. We've known that, some of these folks have done some things that have just been deadpan wrong, straight up. But then you look at, I use Justin for instance. We haven't always agreed on everything. But then when I look at how he's, between him and Tracy Whitfield, they're the only two actually holding the mayor accountable for his actions, words, his policies. So it's kind of like, even no matter how vehemently you disagree with them on certain things, there are other things you're going, okay, we're going to count that one. Got to support them on this one, anyways. For me, it's always about the bigger picture. And I think once you put these mechanisms in place to determine, who's effective, who isn't, who's worthy of being elected into office, and who isn't, I think then we can have those conversations. But just throw it out there and say, okay, anybody not with us is ineffective and we're going to remove them. It's difficult to operate under those premises.
Okay. So, would you say, because I think we need a change in the current administration of the city.
Okay.
So I hear what you're saying.
If you change the mayor and all the department heads and everybody else remains the same, all the city employees remain the same, you can't fire everybody. And the thing is, we have bigots in planning and economic development. We have bigots in code enforcement. We have them in housing. We have them all over the city. So, okay, you chop off the head of that snake. Here's the beautiful thing about white supremacy and systemic racism. If you're on that side of the pond, oh my God, it's an amazing view, because they control almost every position across the board. Mm-hmm. So I go, well, we're getting rid of the mayor, but everybody else is still there. It doesn't matter when you're dealing with, your back taxes on your property. You're still looking at tax title, foreclosure, and no one's walking you through the process so you can, redeem yourself and get your business in order. Nobody's saying, well, hey, if you exercise option A, R, and Z, you can tidy this up. You can get caught up, and you can, go about your life. So you remove the mayor, but what good is removing the mayor when everybody around him still supports him? Matter of fact, he gets into the point, he comes in one way, and they've influenced him to the point where he begins to see things completely different, and he just goes along to get along to maintain his position. He has all the white department heads that he has to work with. They see the world one way, so it doesn't matter if the Negroes and everybody else want to see something if they see it a different way.
Negroes?
Yeah, you colored people.
Okay.
And then when you talk about, the 17 neighborhoods, they have 154,000 people. We're only, what'd you say? What, 18, 15%?
18, 19%.
We're 18, maybe 19% of the population. Then you take away almost another 8 or 9% for children. So it's kind of like he's going to all these neighborhoods, and these white residents, they're agreeing with everything he says. Oh, we're pro-police. But they just killed the man. Doesn't matter, we're pro-police. So when he comes out and says, I'm pro-police, I don't care what happened, I'm supporting the police. No matter if they're wrong, because everybody who looks like him sees the world the same way. So he has to acquiesce to what they want anyways, even if he thinks it's wrong. So the bottom line is, we have to change policy, not personalities. We spend more time on focusing on changing personality, but when we have to find ways to change policy.
I understand that, but based on your example, isn't the policy and the personality
city policy linked? City right now, we have about how many people? 7, maybe 6 or 7 blacks on city council. They're in a position, if they work together, to change a whole lot of policy.
If they work together, okay.
If they work together,
that's
on the state level. We're not trying. I mean, how many groups you see from Springfield trying to work with, black folks in Worcester and Pittsfield and Boston and New Bedford, so that we can find ways of changing policies. You can do it so subtle they have no idea what's going on. An average citizen can draft legislation, submit it to a representative, and really fight to have him push it. So are we doing that? Standing on the sideline, getting on a soapbox. I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying in general. Or going to the barbershop and complaining, ain't nothing ever changing. Then you go, well, what exactly did you do to change anything? As somebody told me the other day, I went on the radio and I said something. Well, what is that going to change? That's not work. That's rhetoric. There's a difference. So until we become process-oriented, put a strategic plan in place and say, in 5 years, we're going to have A, B, C, D. The Latino community does it. And they did it well. They got folks in place, 3 legislators. They got their state senator. They got all, there's all types of movement happening. While we sit around and complaining about who's not doing what and when and what we ain't getting, other people are coming in and they're putting in work. Yeah. It may be easier because they're not black. They don't have to deal with the obstacles of race. If you get in where you fit in, and some folks can assimilate in a whole lot better than others. We'll never be able to assimilate in. I don't care how much you change your vernacular. I don't care how you brighten up your skin. We're still black. So there's obstacles that everybody else is not going to have to deal with. Not saying it's easier
to integrate.
Not saying it's an easy road for them. It's just not, there's no peaks and valleys and sharp cliffs and sharks and alligators. And, we're dealing with all that. So which means if we know this in advance, then we're not taking that paper that you have right there and say, you know what? We're going to use these as our benchmarks. We want A, B, C, D. We have to accomplish these. If we don't accomplish these, then we're done, which means we have to change our objectives. Then we have to reevaluate our strategies in order to change the outcome, to get the outcome that we want. So if we're not doing that, bring it to attention something that we know with every man. You got some cats. We got people who aren't even, aware of what's happening anywhere politically. All they know is, man, it's jacked up, man. They gonna give us a quarter. That's funny. The government's practically eliminating silver and copper. Everything is paper. Matter of fact, it ain't even paper anymore. It's worse. It's plastic. Yeah. It's digital. It's currency that stores.
We don't have any change.
It's currency that doesn't even really exist.
That's the irony. They know what they're doing. We'll give it to you, and we'll face.
And they're giving us a quarter. Well, but thank you. But at the same time, you're fighting. They're fighting something that doesn't even exist in the school systems, critical race theory. We're fighting that. And it's like, well, it doesn't exist in the public school system anywhere in the country. So what difference does it make? It's not until you get to law school you start addressing critical race theory. And how many people are going off to law school?
A lot, and then not a lot. Because college is becoming exponentially too expensive for people.
But when you talk about addressing critical race theory on the campus of a law school, it's an intellectual exercise. When I say how many people are going, how many people who are heavily impacted by the lack of racial education in the classroom, how many of them look like us, and how many of them are actually going off to get their law degrees? Yeah. For the black folks at Western New England and other places, man, listen, they're getting just what the Europeans put on the plate. And whatever they put on the plate and say, here, eat this, digest it, regurgitate it, you do it to get that piece of paper, hoping that once you have that receipt, you can go on to live a better life. In the meantime, you're still not learning anything about you. I'm going to get me my degree so I can come back and help black folks. How are you going to do that when you know absolutely nothing about black folks, no matter how black you are? That's so crazy. We could talk about all these non-tangibles, but the question always backs down to, what is the strategy to overcome that? How do we move past that? So for those who are watching, or listening on 90.7 WTCC, on this Thursday, we have a workshop happening, panel discussion at the Pamusa Museum. Most folks don't know anything about the museum, the Pan-African Historical Museum. We do have a black museum in the city. It's been here for 28 years. Folks need to visit it. Folks need to go into their purses and pocketbooks and, donate 50, 60, $100. Do what you can so that they can upgrade it and get the exhibits and the information that our families need. Mm-hmm. But at Pamusa, this Thursday at 7 p.m., we have a panel discussion called Politics, Policy, in the Black Community. We're bringing in a number of black elected officials. We have school committee member Latonia Monroe Naylor, city councilor Tracy Whitfield, city councilor Justin Hurst, state representative Bud Williams. From Connecticut, we have state representative Bobby Gibson. We have an alderman from Waterbury coming. His name is Vernon Maxwell. And I think there's one more that I'm missing out. And then our keynote address is by Tanisha Arena. Tanisha is a brilliant sister. She is the executive director of Arise for Social Justice. Who better to address these elected officials than someone who represents the poor and the downtrodden on a daily basis? And the thing I love about her, she gives no breaks, cuts no corners, and gives 0 Fs. Yeah. She comes at you in an intellectual capacity. So we're having that workshop so that people can get an understanding of what the roles are. What are the roles of these individuals? We're going to our city councils. Well, they repossessed my car. Well, what is he supposed to do about that? City council is pretty much they're primarily responsible for zoning and ordinance changes, and then providing the fiscal oversight for the city to ensure that there's a system of checks and balances as it boils down to the allocations of funds throughout the city. That's all. Yeah. Nothing more, unless, of course, they have political aspirations. Then they're constantly challenging the mayor because they want the mayor's seat. Other than that, man, it's one of the easiest jobs in the city. A school committee member, they're only responsible for policy that impacts the daily milieu of students in the Springfield public school system. They're not responsible for your light bill. They're not responsible for you getting jobs. None of that stuff.
All those things you mentioned are things that you're responsible for. They
Yeah.
repossess
So,
my car. Why?
but without even getting into why people screw up financially, that's another conversation for another
True.
day. It's we want to make sure that people get a better understanding of the roles of these elected officials, what they are responsible for, how to effectively utilize them, when to contact them, and how to contact them, and what to expect once you contact them. That's critical. So you have state legislators, you have municipal elected officials, and eventually, well, I have never seen them in the Black community addressing anything, but I would love to see Congressman Neal come into our community in that type of forum and talk about the role of a congressman. Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren, I would love to see them come in and educate our community on what it is they actually do. Because a lot of times, it's like when Barack Obama was in office. I can't tell you how many people are like, man, he was a waste. He didn't do nothing for us. The reality is this. If you don't know what the role of the president is, then how do you have expectations for someone? If you don't hold your own congressmen and your senators accountable, how are you gonna hold the president accountable? The bottom line is we think that the minute you're elected into office, that you got this Superman cape and these magical Doctor Strange abilities, and you can change people's circumstances like this. When you're going up against the most racist institution in the world, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. You Black, Republican, Black, Democrat, it doesn't matter. We're dealing with bigots and fair weather bigots.
Yeah.
White liberals, as
Northern
Dr. King
racism
said,
versus Southern racism.
Dr. King, Malcolm, they all said the same thing. White liberals, man, they are the biggest setback. And I know a lot of them mean well, but you can't mean well if you're not really going back into your own neighborhoods. Don't come into my neighborhood, telling us what we can do and let's have a conversation on race in the Black community. No, take it back to your community. Let's talk about legislative change in your community. Let's talk about police brutality in your community. Let's talk about equity in your community. So it's kind of like Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. The bottom line is we have to be better organized. We have to be prepared. We have to be organized. We have to be educated. We have to be analytical in our approach to everything.
We got to be organized. We got to be organized because one of the things, what's crazy when I go
shout out to Dave Smith. What's happening, bro?
Hey, Dave. When I go over the tangible stuff that we covered, not one single march or protest was required for any of those groups to get those tangibles.
No. Why would they? What?
We're out here marching.
And didn't you miss out on something when they first started? Didn't they do something for the Indians coming from India? I think that was the first piece of.
Yeah, but that's part of the Asian Pacific. Well,
just
Asian American Pacific.
Just want to make sure you caught it.
Yeah.
So again, it's not about being anti anybody, but dang, man, when you got kids and grandkids, man, at some point you're like, okay, are they gonna have to struggle 50 years from now? Will my grandkids and great grandkids be sitting around having the same conversation? And you talk about, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. I agree. I think there either needs to be a third party, or we shouldn't show a commitment to either party unless we know that they're pushing a policy that's going to move us forward. Period. I think that for me, that's the safest bet.
That right there. If they're going to push a policy, not some tangible nonsense with ambiguous wording, with undeserved communities, and including Black people. No. Because every other organization has stuff specific for them. Nothing saying undeserved communities. Right. It says
we need clear
blank.
We need clear objectives. Boom. You can't just say, we need better for my community. No, we need clear objectives. We need it by the end of your second term, we need at least a 45 to 50% increase in viable Black businesses. We want to see new business. We want funding to create, to increase it by X amount of businesses. We want to increase the number of home ownership by X amount. We have to give people, we got to give them real numbers, man. You can't just say, what you doing for us? Well, what did you ask me to do? I know when I was working downtown, people, well, what you didn't do this. Well, I've been doing my own work with organizations to get this done. You've never come to a single meeting. You haven't come to an organizational effort. You haven't participated in a single activity. We did the thing. We brought businesses down. We brought Enterprise down from Boston to help get our businesses better prepared to move forward.
Yeah.
Man, you know how hard that was? You were the one knocking on doors. It was hard.
Man, it's like giving free money away and you don't want it.
And we did that, you know, in a number of different ways. So it's kind of like our folks have to be prepared to put in work. That's why equity is everything. Man, you got to put in that work.
We got to do that because, you know, we're letting other people define our narrative and our agenda. And we can't do that. Nobody else allows anybody else to define their narrative and agenda.
Right. Bottom line is we got work. So I hear everything you were saying earlier, and I don't devalue any of that. Everything you said was spot on. But again, it's like, well, who are we? It boils down to, well, who are we blaming? We got a statue instead of equity. Who are we blaming for that? Who's responsible? And I think that's the other side of the conversation. Who's responsible for all that?
Well, like you said, if neither party is going to do anything to push policy, then we should not be supporting.
But if the black community isn't doing anything to ensure that these legislators push policy, how are they going to push policy? Mitch McConnell, and I guarantee you, where's Mitch McConnell from? Unless he's from Idaho or somewhere like that, I'm sure there's enough folks to vote him out of office, but just don't. Let me see where Mitch is from. I know I'm getting old because I used to know this stuff. And where's he from?
Was he one of the ones wearing the Kente cloth?
No,
that was Pelosi. Yeah. That was Pelosi in her game.
He was born in Sheffield, Alabama. Where is he? What state does he visit? Is Kentucky?
You know what?
Yeah, he's from. He represents Kentucky. So I don't know if there's enough of us out there in Kentucky. But I tell you, there's enough to hold other people, as Dave Smith puts in the comment. You know, accountability is everything. Yo, everybody around them. If you can get rid of about 10 of them senators,
it's gonna send a message.
It sends a message.
Loud message.
And then, you know, and just being completely honest, man. If they're talking about capital punishment, stop saying I don't support capital punishment just because you're black. You kill somebody in my family, I support capital punishment. I think you need to die too. That the views,
eye for an eye.
You know. So it's kind of like we may not agree for the same reasons, but if the outcome is the same, then it's kind of like we almost have a shared agenda. And I think we have to be honest that just because you're black doesn't mean you have to go with everything that the Democrats say. And we do that. We jump on everything the Democrats say because, well, you know, they work better with black people. No, they don't. They're better at placating us. Yeah. Hey, Rob, don't be upset, Rob.
Jedi mind tricks.
You know what? I'm giving you the keys to a car. You can drive anywhere you want to go.
Is that a Ford Escort?
No, it's a Chevelle. But you have a car.
But
so
you're driving the Benz. Why I gotta?
And that's the thing with the Democrats. So again, it's about accountability. It's about educating our folks. Like we're just having conversation right now, but at some point we'll start bringing folks in. We need to start bringing people in and really educating folks from the political process. We have this thing about politics. The beginning and ending of politics in most black communities and most black households is the vote. Every October, we're telling us, you got to vote. Our ancestors died so you can vote. But damn it, who am I voting for? You're asking me, you're telling me I have to vote and I have to choose between this white supremacist and this Klan member. Who am I voting for? You're not telling me why I'm voting. You're not telling me what after I vote, now what do I do?
And oftentimes, what you said in the left hand and in the right hand, it might be a black face.
Listen, we could be voting for coons or just somebody who ain't a coon. He just ignorant. You know absolutely nothing about business. You've never owned a business. It's like the furthest thing from your mind. The only thing you're worried about is police brutality. In the meantime, we got these 20 businesses on the brink of closing, but you're worried about this cop cursing somebody out. That is so important. However, we can change our circumstances. We can change our entire neighborhoods if we get our business community on point. Who's going, instead of your son hanging on the block or just sitting around playing video games or doing nothing, he might end up, working for Rob Jones. He's an apprentice. Next thing you know, he owns a similar type of business. We have to think, big picture. Big picture. Everything's not social justice. Everything isn't business development,
Actually,
but everything is damn sure economic development.
I would even say, because I think we've been focused on social justice for too many decades now, I would even say pivot away from the social justice and more on economic development. Because economic development is going to mitigate some of those social justice
They've
issues.
been saying, I mean, A. Philip Randolph back in the 1920s, he led the Union of Sleeping Car Porters. He's been pushing an economic development agenda ever since. We have to create opportunities. He was saying back in the 1920s. So there were folks who were pushing that economic agenda. But your white liberal friends were the ones who took the social justice and put that at the front of the road. They're not trying to get little. They're not trying to risk little Becky and little Brad losing their jobs. Or better yet, Dave Smith starts a business here, and he does so well. He puts little Brad out of business. Competing, as liberal as they are, they don't want a competitive playground. They don't want that.
No,
they don't want that. So we can't say that we have to change it. We have to make a conscious effort. Again, we have to educate so that we can organize and mobilize. We all have to be on the same page, because we're all over the place and we still pushing that, no justice, no peace. Nah. No justice, we ain't supporting none of your businesses.
Yeah.
And we can put everybody out of business. That's the only thing that matters. Dave Smith says, change our focus on community growth versus community issues. Absolutely.
When you talked about liberals, I want everyone to realize, liberals are the most dangerous out there. But whether you're liberal, whether you're progressive, whether you're conservative, Democrat, Republican, it's still one snake with two fangs. You're still gonna get poisoned either way. But it's all about the external messaging. Like you said, placation on the liberals and the Democrat side, and on the Republican side, it's like, we don't like you, we don't want you. But
what about,
and it's straightforward.
That's them, and we expect that from them. But what about the internal messaging? How many people are saying, we need to change our focus on community growth versus community issues? In every setting, in the barbershop, the beauty salon, in the kitchen, the living room, the church, the bathroom. We have to change.
That's that organization you were talking about.
And that's where education comes in. We have to change our narrative, and we have to digest it, and we have to believe it in order for that to happen. It's so easy to blame white America on everything we do. Man, listen, we do anything. We're probably the most powerful group in the world. Anything we
got the money, we got the swag.
It ain't even about money.
Education.
We're so determined to do what we want to do. It's just that 9 times out of 10, when it comes down to what we should be doing, we have to do the other thing.
Let me ask you this: when you
say to support, we got to be committed to support. Dave, you're right. Go ahead.
When you say we're so determined, do you think we're so determined to integrate more, or
we're determined to exist? Nobody care about no integrate. Even when you have opportunities to integrate, we don't. Some folks, integration. It's like, what exactly is that? It ain't about integration. I think it's about survival. We got some people who think, I look at where I grew up at, and it's like, well, maybe if I was something other than black, they'd accept me. Maybe I'd get this opportunity. So when you say integrate, I think people are overly accommodating in terms of trying to be, just jumping into being something that they're not. Integration is the key. No, integration is not the key, Dave.
I agree with that, Dave. Sorry, bro.
When you look at what happened to Dave Smith said integration is the key on Facebook. Here's the deal. With integration, we lost almost 60% of our business community. In our neighborhoods,
teachers,
there was like a brain drain. The vast majority of people who could afford to get up and leave the neighborhoods left the neighborhood. We became so splintered and so spread out, it was hard to have an impact on any particular area. Now with folks migrating back down to the South and migrating back to, certain geographic areas, we're able to change political tides. So you say integration, it's interesting. When I lived in Meriden, I worked at Canberra Industries, and there was only 2 blacks out of about 300 employees. It's hard to integrate when people don't want you to integrate in, when you're just there. And I remember Dominic Sarno told me, at some point, you got to choose a side. Choose a side for what? How do I choose a side. When they started marching, and the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening. You need to choose a side. I can't choose a side. I'm black all day. I can't sit here when everybody in the mayor's office was talking about, Kaepernick and all these other cats with these hoodlums. They should just play football and be quiet. How do you integrate in when you got mainstream America looking at you as if you're less than? And if they're looking at you like that, you're 6'6", you're a ball player, and they're like, Rob Jones needs to shut up and play ball. Well, damn, what do they think about me? So integration is a scary thing. When we talk about integration, we're talking about overly assimilating to the point where we lose ourselves. And that's a scary thing. And we lose our businesses. I don't know. It's just, can't post comments to some destination. I don't know what that is. Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that you're saying about that is some of us are just trying to salvage relationships with a demographic of people that don't even acknowledge that we exist, that don't even want us here. So why are we like bending over backwards for folks that don't really like us or really want us? There's nothing that we could do. If we say yes, they're mad. If we say no, they're mad. So it's just like, do what you got to do.
You know what, Dave? Thank you for the clarification. Integrating amongst ourselves, absolutely.
Yeah, clean that up, Dave.
We gotta get Dave.
Clean that up, man.
We gotta get Dave on one day because Dave, I go on his page sometimes. Dave Smith, y'all, and he's like dropping jewels, and people are like getting it all wrong. It's like people, he's a conservative Republican. No, he's a conservative brother. He sees the world differently. He's a business owner. So he sees the world in terms of business, and a lot of what he says, most of it makes complete sense.
And some of those cats are saying that can't even define what the conservative is or progressive is.
No, that's not even true. It's just that we're so conditioned to see the world a certain way. It's not that they can't. Some of these cats are bright, brilliant, but we're so conditioned. We can only look at social justice because that's like it's all we're allowed to think about. We have blinders on, and there's just so much more that we could be, that we should be
anything
discussing.
Else but social justice,
right? I seen art. Oh my God, that picture that's floating around. I sent it to you. The one with the two family had the black family, one with the father in the picture, and everybody's all clean and neat. Then the other one with it was just the mother with the kids.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I was in the Malcolm X forums. I had to get out of that, man. These folks is ignorant. Everybody kept just automatically assuming the worst. That's because we're not there, and our people this. And I'm just putting us down. It was just like, no, maybe dad was just taking the picture.
Yeah.
And it made me take a look at and this is off topic, but maybe take a look at all the pictures I have of me and my kids, mom, dad, both in the house. I'm not in none of the pictures. Why? Because I'm knowing with my cell phone. Oh, that would make a dope picture. I'm snapping pictures. The thing is, we're so conditioned to see the worst in everything that we do.
Myopic.
Yeah, we're very myopic in our thinking. We tend to see the worst, that we're not even open to any other schools of thought. So when I talk about Dave Smith, and I appreciate him offering different schools of thought, because we got to force ourselves, no matter how uncomfortable it is, man, we got to start using other terms to describe us. We have to use other, we have to think of other ways of building us. Other than that, it's just, it's just rubbish. It's garbage. Mm-hmm. That's just me. So
no. I agree. I just wanted to, because I've noticed a pattern, and like the examples when you see commercials, you'll see, same sex and they're always black, or you'll see mixed race and black and something else. It's just, you're seeing a pattern because they're trying to control a narrative. And I've just been seeing a pattern lately with a lot of black Democrats coming out pushing things that they shouldn't be pushing. It's just like, now it's the midterm, so I see what's going on. And the Republicans ain't saying nothing because they don't care.
Well, I think you're like caught up in that box too, because you keep referring to Democrats, what they're doing, and Republicans, and it doesn't matter.
No, I know it doesn't matter. I don't think I'm caught up in that box. I hear what you're saying.
No, but it sounds like you're in the box.
Nah, man, I ain't no box.
Democrats. What's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?
Nothing. Ideology.
Right. So neither one of them are working in our favor.
Yeah.
So you think Congressman Neal, when he's on that bus on his way to New Hampshire, to go bang on doors for the Irish, you think he's thinking about black people?
Well, Dr. Henry Clark
And-
said we have no
and
friends.
he's considered a super liberal. You think he care about black people? Are you kidding me? You think Elizabeth Warren, if Elizabeth Warren was walking down Main Street at about 9:30 at night, we know downtown Springfield's completely deserted, and me and you were walking on the same side of the sidewalk as her, and she walking towards her, and we're both walking towards each other, you think she wouldn't be petrified? Man, get up out of here. So it doesn't matter. She's going to react. Her, Nancy Pelosi, and they're going to respond the same way the Republican people do. So it doesn't matter, man. We're making it seem as if one box is better than the other.
No. It's about the conditioning you talked about. We're conditioned to do X versus like, well, you haven't done nothing for us, so we're not going to support you.
I think it goes back to what Dave said. We have to change our focus on community growth, which means we should only focus on the variables that are going to strengthen us. We should only focus on the things that are going to strengthen us, and all that other stuff are just, these are the penalties. If we don't think like this, we'll go back to the Democrats dressing up in African clothes made by folks over in China to placate us, although they're not giving us. So it's kind of like we should use that as like, this is what happens if we don't. And I think if we're not focusing on the things that are going to help us to grow, further our development, then we're losing. And we get right. It's so easy to talk about which group isn't going to do what for us, or we're relying too much on the Democrats. The bottom line is we are. Let's let it go. Let's figure out ways to move our folks forward without Democrats, without Republicans. And again, I don't think we owe any loyalty to any group at all. Period.
I agree with that 1,000%.
Dave says, I want everybody to think I'm holding your hand, man. Can you move your hand? Dave says, I was raised a strong liberal Democrat until I became my own man and made my own narrative to this political chaos. I was raised in a Democratic household. My parents were involved in the Black Democrats. But I wouldn't say it was a liberal Democratic home. I mean, that's I can't mention talk about your home, Dave. You'd have to be here to talk about it. But I've never seen my dad as, although him and my mom were both actively involved in the Black Democrats down in Connecticut, I don't see them as being loyal Democrats. I think I see them as saying, okay, we need to make sure that our folks get out. Pops coming from the South, moms coming from the West Indies, they didn't want to see us go back to what they experienced growing up in this country. So it was like, all right, we're gonna move with this group because this group is moving in our direction. So it's kind of like, I think it's critical. I agree with the whole point about creating your own narrative until I became my own man, made my own narrative. It's not. I don't know. I'd have to have you on to have that conversation. But I think a lot of times we all think we have our own narrative, and the narrative is changing. It's like an energy in the air. More and more people are talking about it. We're challenging each other to think differently. And you have to do that. I mean, again, if I don't know, I don't think like my dad did. I don't think like my mom did. They thought I was nuts. You remember when I got to Southern, I didn't care about hanging. I didn't care about no Greeks. I didn't care about parties. I didn't care about nothing. If we wasn't talking about black stuff, that's all I cared about. My dad was, he was completely different. Mom, they were hardcore Democrats. Give a damn about Democrats then. It was just like, bigger picture. What are we doing to educating our young people? What are we doing to create opportunities for our young people? And I was like 19. I didn't realize I was a young people too. So it's kind of like, I think we've all got to a point where we had to force our narrative to change. You're coming from New Hampshire. Think about it. We got to know all those other folks. Yo, man, you had to find a way to think outside that box.
Yeah.
It's the only way to become more. I agree with Dave says that's how we become powerful. We have to change our narrative. Narrative is every freaking thing, man. You can't just say, throw out a headline and say, this is what I think now. No, you really have to digest it. You have to believe it. You have to believe that you're the difference and you're the change. You have to say, thank you for putting Maya's face on the back of a quarter. We appreciate that. However, we still haven't gotten that policy. What's going on with that? We got to be businessmen.
Yeah. When you talk about, Dave's comment about being powerful, we have all the raw materials. They're just located in different areas. We got to congregate them together, which goes back to the whole organization piece. And we can't be myopic in what we're doing. We have to take a panoramic view of the situation, because when you look at, and I wish I had the stats, when you look at the black voters that came out in 2012, the numbers versus the overall numbers of people that voted, that right there, then and there could have been.
Our numbers have increased with every major election over the last 15 to 20 years. our numbers have not decreased. We're the only ethnic/racial group in the country whose numbers have not decreased on a national level.
Wow.
We vote. Oh, damn it. We vote. We believe in the vote more than anybody. But we vote wrong. we again,
we sure as hell
you know,
vote wrong. God,
so-
dog.
Just as people know, coming up at the Pamusa, the Pan African Historical Museum, we formed a partnership with them to bring the panel sessions that we used to bring to the Renaissance Art Space to Pamusa. So panel sessions coming up, Life After Prison. It's a conversation with former inmates on how they moved on to live their best lives. We're talking about people who didn't use after incarceration services from the state or anybody else. They got out, got their lives together, started businesses, and they're running successful businesses. There's another panel is called Look at Us Now, a conversation on Black families today and what that looks like. Third one, which is, along the lines of what you and David were saying, it's called Money Trail, a conversation with legislators. Over the years, legislative funding has only gone to certain agencies, organizations, and agendas. We'll be talking with those legislators who need our votes to stay in office, and they need to explain the money trail. And that's, I think, at that point that it's really critical because we have a number of businesses we need to make sure continue to exist. And I don't mean getting funding for social service programs.
Yeah,
We're not talking about funding for businesses in our communities and neighborhoods, no matter where they're situated. If you have a Black business that's in the middle of an all-white neighborhood, our job, we should be doing due diligence to make sure that individual gets the funding to stay afloat, period. So
Yeah.
I think we have to change the game. It's about, we have to be businessmen when it comes down to politics. And, kudos to my grandfather and great-grandfather and the rest of them who left the plantation and they struggled. We're in a different boat. Our fight's a whole lot different. I ain't fighting for equality. I don't think any of us are fighting for equality. Only thing that matters right now is equity. If we don't have access, if we don't have exposure to, if we can't, grab, as
tangible.
if we can't get hold of those tangibles, then it's a waste of our time. So this is 90.7 WTCC FM. My name is D.Moss. This is Monday Night Live with D.Moss. My man Rob Jones, he hosts the Insight portion of Monday Night Live, and he brings it in the way that only Rob Jones can bring it. If you'd like to come on as a guest, make sure you hit me at dmosslive@gmail.com. We'll be happy to entertain your viewpoints. Just know that we don't pull punches.
This dude said I was in the box. I almost slapped him in the back of the head, but we're on air, and there's too many witnesses.
Well, you can't slap a person with your intellect and what's they say about you. Makes you a really weak man.
See, there's another one.
The strongest muscle on your body is this one right here. It ain't got nothing to do with this. You might be able to beat me with your hands. However, I'm going to win over the long term.
Yeah, you'll heal.
He'll nothing. You gonna find you'll be wondering, why am I caught up in court every day? And what do you mean I might be going to jail for 10 years? I'm gonna ask you when the judge got your sentences. I'm like, yo, bro, was it worth it? Told you I beat you.
Come in a wheelchair.
I said we have to be smarter.
Be like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places.
We have to be smarter before we can be stronger. Yeah, you kind of smart. You use those big words in it.
Oh Lord.
Hey y'all, this is 90.7. Let's see what else you had. What else? You had a bunch of things on your list.
Oh yeah. Just going through the conversation, I think we're going to need to pivot the conversation on educating folks on the voting process, what legislators do, and things of that nature, because we're throwing out some good nuggets, but I think we need to be more educated somewhat to let people know and just not assume that people should know, because you don't know what you don't know. The next few years, the next couple of years, it's just very, very, very critical for us, because people and groups are leapfrogging over the Black community, and we're allowing it. We're handing it over to them, and we have to stop doing that. Now, with that being said, the converse is there's a lot of dope Black people out there doing some great things. I mean, we kind of focus on some negative stuff, but there's a lot of groups.
You did, not me.
There's a lot of groups out there doing some great things all around the country.
Mm-hmm.
And even here in Springfield, there's some folks doing some good stuff.
Shout out to Tiffany Alicia.
Yep. And Miss Serena, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, Shout out to Daryl Gibbs from
Bumpy's.
Bumpy's. Bumpy's is what?
It's a health food store. So this
Bumpy's
is
Organic
one of the
Foods.
black.
Shout out to Bumpy's. Shout out to Regina Hudson and Hudson Financial Strategists for sponsoring some of the upcoming panel sessions that we have coming up. They both sponsored, chipped in and co-sponsored the stage play we had this past weekend. So, kudos to them. We talk about business people giving back to the community, not even giving back, working together to make sure that these types of activities and events continue to take place.
Yeah.
Which is why it's critical, man, that we big up our business community. That's the biggest thing, man. This way we don't have to, we ain't got to fight for people's pennies. We don't have to step and fetch and, Google dance for people and, just to get dollars, man. We can create our own economy to support our own efforts, man.
Our economy is the black American economy is strong. When you aggregate it all up, we're like a top 12 from a GDP standpoint nation.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be the negative one here. Professor Giles.
Yes. Oh man,
he said so our problem is we have a tendency to discriminate against ourselves. He says, how do you have an output of 1.4 trillion dollars and still tell the world that you're broke and poor every day? He's just like walking into a room that's filled with money, and you're the only one walking out with not a single dollar in your pocket and claiming there's no money in sight. How do you walk through that room, walk out the other door, and there's no money in your pocket? He said we discriminate against ourselves on a daily basis, man. We got to bring him back to speak again. He was brilliant.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
He made me look at the concept of, the whole notion of discrimination completely differently. I never looked at that word the same sense.
Yeah.
When Dr. Giles broke down discrimination, I'm thinking let's get into the racial stuff. He says no. He only focused on how we discriminate against ourselves. We are so self-defeatist at times. And again, I think when we talk about that paradigm shift, when we talk about changing the narrative, man, that's all inclusive, man. We have to force ourselves, as Dave Smith said, we have to force ourselves to think differently.
Yeah.
And there's so many transitional values that we carry from generation to generation that we have to discard because it's weighting us down.
So kind of in the vein of the business community, I like talking about Bumpy's because one of the things as a community we need to eat better. I mean, if you drive through Springfield, how many McDonald's are in Springfield? How many Burger Kings? How many KFCs? You go a town over.
I like meat.
You go a town over.
I like meat.
They don't. I like meat too. You don't have that. So Bumpy's is the only black-owned health food store in the region.
Yeah, and he just opened up another store in Granby.
Yeah, he opened up another store in the region. So it's kind of like, here's a dude that is selling products that are healthy, that benefit us, that helps us from a health perspective, longevity, avoid getting sick, make our immune system strong, et cetera, et cetera. He's doing this. It's incumbent upon us as a community to make sure we support that business. And then, you mentioned Regina Hudson, educating people on life insurance and financial tools and mechanisms to help you, what do they call it? Perpetuation planning. None of these GoFundMes when someone passes away. You've got something to pass down to your kids when you're gone.
Absolutely.
That's one of the tools to pass down in terms of generational wealth. Mm-hmm. Is property. Oftentimes, it's a life insurance policy. Sets your kids up so they can buy their own property, pay off some bills, be in a more financial stable position than when you left them.
All right, y'all. This is 90.7 WTCC FM. Monday Night Live with D.Moss. It's my co-host, Mr. Rob Jones. Shout out to Angela Thorpe. She was doing her thing in East Long Meadow as an elected official. What? So, hope to see you out of some of the conversations, the panel discussions on the electoral process, the political process, helping us to put together accountability mechanisms to ensure that our elected officials, both white, black, and other, do due diligence so that we can get the resources that we need. All right, y'all. At this time, I gotta pay some bills, so we have a few cards that we have to play. Let's get it.
This program has been underwritten by the Black Springfield COVID-19 Coalition.
Hi, I'm State Representative Bud L. Williams. On behalf of the Springfield COVID-19 Coalition Committee and Chairperson Pastor J.P. Morgan of the Holy Trinity Church of God in Christ, COVID-19 tests are being administered on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 5 p.m. at H&M 265 Oak Grove Avenue, Springfield, Massachusetts. COVID vaccinations at Cataldo, 1 Federal Street, Technology Park, Springfield, Mass. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays 10 to 5, Thursdays 12 to 8. Please get your vaccination. Stay safe, wash your hands, social distance. The Black COVID Coalition will continue to update you on the effects of the COVID-19 virus.
WTCC would like to thank the Black Springfield COVID-19 Coalition for underwriting with us.
This program has been underwritten by Baypath University. What is your purpose and how can you make it a reality? Join Baypath University for a virtual event featuring alum Ruby Maddox on Wednesday, March 2nd from 5:30 to 7 p.m. This free public and virtual workshop hosted by the Women Empowered as Learners and Leaders program will help all participants clarify their vision, execute on their goals, develop a purpose-driven plan, recover from setbacks, and above all, reimagine their purpose. For more information, Dina Moore at dmore@baypath.edu. dmore@baypath.edu. WTCC would like to thank Baypath University for underwriting with us.
This program has been underwritten by the Springfield Public Schools. Attention, Springfield Public School families. Did you know your household is entitled to receive a discount of up to $30 a month on your Comcast, Verizon, or Spectrum bill? That's right. Simply by having a student enrolled in the Springfield Public Schools, your family is completely eligible for this savings. Please visit www.springfieldpublicschools.com for further information and to learn how you can apply today for your discounted rate. WTCC would like to thank Springfield Public Schools for underwriting with us.
All right, y'all. This is 90.7 WTCC Monday Night Live with D.Moss. That's my man, Rob Jones. Shout out to everybody who's been listening and hanging out with us all night. We are deeply, deeply, deeply appreciative. Rob came with a mouthful today, man. You saying something next week or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important for us to continue the dialogue, continue to talk to the listeners, to educate the listeners, but also we're getting education too, because if you got comments, you put the comments in, we share the comments, we use some of those comments as talking points and communicate, what's going on out there. And it's important to get feedback. We just don't want to be the only ones talking at you or to you. Mm-hmm. So when you add comments in the comment section, we're going to read them. And some of those comments warrant additional exploration and discussion. So let me just say this. I appreciate all the comments and I appreciate you. And I'll be back next week for more stuff.
All right, y'all, we're going to take a break. We're going to play some music. This is the end of the conversation portion. The rest of the night is all music. So make sure you tune in, 90.7 WTCC. We're going off of Facebook, but we'll be back. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Deezer next Monday at 9 p.m. From 10:30 to midnight. It's all radio. So if you still got a radio in your house, make sure you turn it to 90.7. All right, y'all. Let's go. Terrestrial.